For your convenience, I've collected the recaps of the TV series Andor and the movie Rogue One in one clip. The series is set 5 years before the events of the 2016 film Rogue One. Cassian Andor is a petty thief who sells his loot on the planet Ferrix, where he lives with Marva, the old woman who raised him. He was born on the planet Canary, but the Empire destroyed it when they tried to suck all the resources from it. In the present, Cassian is trying to find his sister, whom he separated from as a child, and is stopped by 2 security officers who work for the Empire. Cassian, trying to defend himself, accidentally kills one and has to shoot the other as a witness. Back home, he asks his friend Brasso to take care of his mother and his old droid as he is about to leave the planet for fear of being hunted down. His fears were not in vain. Karn, a young ambitious security officer, begins to investigate and gets on Cassian's trail. Together with an extraction team, he is sent to Ferrix. Meanwhile, the main character goes to his girlfriend Bix and asks her to connect him with a buyer who can purchase from him the very valuable Imperial equipment he stole earlier. She, using a secret transmitter, contacts Luthen Rail and he flies to Ferrix. Cassian soon meets up with Luthen, but it turns out the man is not very interested in the Imperial device and tells him that he flew here specifically for the main character. He is aware of his past and believes that Cassian will serve the rebel alliance that Luthen is trying to create. The main character doesn't believe that the rebels can achieve anything, but the old man persuades him to help him in a big deal, promising 200,000 credits, which is a huge amount of money. At this point, the security service tracks down Cassian and attacks the main characters. They manage to escape from the factory. They stumble upon Officer Karn and tie him up. The men stage a diversion by blowing up a speeder and fly off to Luthen's ship. Soon the Empire learns of what has happened and fires the officers responsible for the deaths. Karn, devoted to the Empire's views with all his heart, goes to Coruscant to his mother, and she helps him to get a job in the Bureau of Standards, a regular bureaucratic cog in the Empire. The main characters arrive on the planet Aldhani, and Luthen introduces Cassian to his subordinate Vel, after which the old man leaves. The protagonist is ordered not to tell anyone about Luthen, then sent to the camp, where he gets acquainted with other participants of the event. It turns out that the rebels want to rob the local vault, which is located at the hydroelectric plant, and steal the Imperial payroll of the entire space sector. The idea seems suicidal to Cassian, as there is an enemy military base not far from the vault. However, he is told of a way to sneak out after the heist. It turns out that on this day, there will be a very rare natural phenomenon called Eye of Aldhani, which will take out the navigation devices of the Empire, and the main characters will be able to escape. In addition, they will be helped to get inside by an officer of the Empire who has become disillusioned with their ideology and turned to the rebels. The main characters start to implement the plan. They infiltrate the hydroelectric plant and take a top officer hostage. They get to the warehouse and start loading money into the cargo ship. A few military men decide to check the premises and a gunfight ensues, in which several main characters are killed. Eventually, they take off and manage to get away from the Empire's fighters by using the Eye of Aldhani. Cassian begins to suspect that the rebels may kill him, as he is a mercenary and could turn them in if they do. So he takes the part of the money promised to him and escapes. Because of this daring robbery, the Empire decides to increase its influence in the nearby sectors. They bring their troops to the planets, tighten the laws, and keep a closer eye on disgruntled citizens. Cassian returns to Ferrix, pays off his debts, and suggests that Marva get off this godforsaken planet. But Marva does not want to leave her home, saying she will fight the invaders to the last. Cassian, who still does not share the views of the Resistance, leaves Ferrix, as he wants to live in his own pleasure. Meanwhile, Luthen arrives on Coruscant, where he lives his second life pretending to be an antique stealer. He meets Senator Mon Mothma, who shares his rebel views. However, the Empire is watching her closely, and she finds it very difficult to sponsor the Resistance, even though she has huge amounts of money in her accounts. Throughout the season, the woman tries not to get caught, but soon realizes that the Empire have started digging under her. Mon Mothma makes it look like her husband lost all his money at the casino, and in the meantime, through her banker friend, tries to find a way to withdraw money from her accounts without attracting the attention of the Empire. However, for the sake of the rebels, she has to contact Davo, a very powerful criminal leader on Coruscant, who will help her secretly withdraw the money. But in return, Davo wants his son to befriend Mon Mothma's daughter. Vel also returns to Coruscant, and it turns out she is Mon Mothma's cousin. She meets with Luthen, and he thanks her for the successful robbery of the Empire's vault. The Resistance was able to enrich themselves with 80 million credits from this operation. Luthen killed 2 birds with 1 stone, funding for the rebels as well as the enemy's retaliation. He believes that the more the Empire pressures the common people, the sooner people will realize that they need to rise up against their oppressors. The old man realizes that sacrifices cannot be avoided, but this is the only way to overthrow the Empire. Luthen orders Vel to find and kill Cassian, as he has seen his face. If he is caught, there is a chance that he will lead the Empire to the leader of the Resistance. Afterward, Vel and her friend Cinta travel to Ferrix to find Cassian. Meanwhile, Cassian is vacationing on the planet Neamos, under a fake name. One day he is stopped by stormtroopers and arrested, believing he was trying to flee the scene of a crime. Due to the Empire's recent tightening of laws, Cassian is sentenced to 6 years in prison. He is soon sent to the planet Narkina 5, an unusual prison. Here all the wardens wear special shoes and the prisoners are barefoot, because the floor is covered with a special metal. It can conduct electricity that can cause incredible pain or even kill people. This prison is a factory where the prisoners are obliged to assemble some strange parts for 12 hours a day. There are 100 workshops, each of them has 7 tables with 7 people working at them, which means that there are 5,000 people in the prison. At the end of the shift, the table with the worst result is punished with electric shocks. Cassian works like a damned for more than a month, trying with his team not to become underperformers. One day his colleague, being an old man, can't stand it and dies of a stroke. The doctor who came to him says that the guards had to execute 2 whole workshops, that is 100 people, and all because by mistake, one prisoner, who was to be released after serving his time, was simply transferred to another workshop. The main characters realize that no one goes out of here, as they produce some secret equipment. Cassian and his friends decide to get out of this prison, even if they die in the process. They guess that there are not many guards at the facility, and there are about 5,000 prisoners. By causing a flood, they create an electrical short circuit and get out of the facility. After freeing the other prisoners, they run to the exit and swim to land. Cassian and his friend Ruscott try to find a way to leave the planet and are helped by the locals, who are not happy with the Empire. The main characters travel to Neamos, where Cassian takes his money, after which they split up. The Imperial Security Bureau, hereafter referred to as ISB, considers the rebel movements to be insignificant and does not consider them a threat. Dedra Meero, an ISB lieutenant, notices that Imperial equipment is going missing all over the galaxy, and it seems to be an accident, but she believes that someone is making it look that way on purpose. She starts digging deeper and stumbles upon a report of an incident on Ferrix that Cassian was involved in. After investigating, she interrogates former security officer Karn and learns valuable information from him. Karn, impressed by Meero, falls in love with her and wants to help in the investigation, but she sends him away. However, Karn does not intend to give up and secretly tries to find information on Cassian Andor. Soon Meero puts all the puzzles of the mosaic together and realizes that behind all the random robberies and sabotage of the Resistance is one man, codenamed Axis. She guesses that on Ferrix, Axis acted recklessly, and his face was seen by several people, one of whom is Cassian Andor. She goes to Ferrix and discovers the transmitter that Bix used to communicate with Axis. She tortures the woman, but she has no information about Luthen. Soon, Marva Cassian's mother dies of old age, and Meero realizes that this is a great chance to catch Cassian, who is sure to attend the funeral. Meanwhile, Karn also learns about it and goes to Ferrix. Luthen learns from his man, who is a spy in the ISB, that the Empire is preparing to attack one rebel cell. However, the old man doesn't want to save them, as that would give away the spy, and he is far more valuable than 50 men from the Resistance. Soon, Luthen visits another rebel cell run by Saw Gerrera. The old man wants to unite the Separatists and create a network. By the way, the resistance of the Empire is not united, and even sometimes fight each other. Luthen provokes Saw Gerrera, trying to see how loyal he is to his mission and what he's willing to do to win. Realizing that they are on the same page, the old man tells the man of his plans to create a network of rebels. Then he goes to Ferrix, sensing that something important will happen there. Cassian returns to Ferrix and learns what has happened during his absence. He wants to free Bix, who is still being held captive, and notices Luthen in the crowd. Meanwhile, the townsfolk begin a funeral procession in Marva's honor. In her farewell address, she encourages the people to rise up against the Empire, and they stage an explosion, after which riots break out. Miro is attacked by an angry mob, but Karn rescues her, and a spark develops between them. Cassian manages to free Bix. He puts her on a ship with Brass, an old droid, and another guy who set off the explosion. However, doesn't fly with them as he has to settle one issue. He finds Luthen, who at first intended to kill him. However, the main character is finally inspired by the views of the Resistance and wants to join their side. In the scene after the credits, we are shown that the very parts Cassian gathered in prison are used to create the Death Star. This is the end of the first season. A year has passed since the uprising on Ferrix. Cassian Andor is given a new mission: to steal the prototype of the Empire's new fighter. He succeeds, but upon arriving at the meeting place, he comes across armed men. He realizes that this is also some kind of rebel cell. However, because the Resistance is fragmented, it is difficult for them to cooperate, so they tie Cassian up and he spends a few days with them. Eventually, he manages to escape, leaving these people to deal with their own problems. Meanwhile, Bix, Brasso, and Wilmon are hiding from the Empire on a distant agricultural planet. They are waiting for Cassian to finish his mission and come back for them to change their hideout. Suddenly, an Imperial ship appears over the planet. Their purpose, to search for illegal immigrants. The main characters realize they need to leave as soon as possible, but they don't make it in time. Eventually, Brasso is mortally wounded and dies, and Bix has to kill an Imperial officer who wanted to rape her. That's when Cassian shows up, destroys the Imperial squad, and takes his friends off this planet. Meanwhile, Senator Mon Mothma prepares to marry off her daughter to the son of Davo, a very powerful criminal leader. During the festivities, her banker informs the woman that he has discovered her connection to the Resistance. He wants to tell the Empire everything, but Luthen finds out about it and makes the banker disappear. Meanwhile, Krennic, the Empire's director of advanced weapons research, calls a secret meeting. At it, it becomes known that the planet Gorman has a very valuable energy resource, which is not even realized. The Empire is forced to start mining this resource, but this will lead to the complete destruction of the planet. The problem is that there are humans living on Gorman, and the planet has enough political clout to resist a direct invasion. Krennic demands that the officers figure out a way to solve this problem. No one knows what to do, and then Dedra Meero speaks up. She suggests that the Resistance should intervene, and then they will be able to turn the situation in their favor. The woman is then appointed head of the project on Gorman. Back home, Meero meets Karn, with whom they now live together. 1 year passes. Meero sends Karn to Gorman to put her plan into action. The man is the head of the Bureau of Standards there and does his usual work. During this time, an Imperial citadel has been built on the planet, which the locals don't like. People plan to learn what exactly the Empire is up to, so they try to find allies in their ranks. That's how they come across Karn, who just so happens to be a good fit. They bring him to the meeting and think they've lured him to their side. But it's all part of Meero's plan. Karn tells the local rebels about the strange shipments the Imperial troops are receiving. The man pretends to sympathize with the revolutionaries and gives them a schedule of these shipments. Meanwhile, Over the course of this year, Cassian and Bix have gone through many secret resistance missions and become battle-hardened. Except the woman is still reeling from everything that happened to her in Season 1 and 2. She started taking illegal substances to ease her suffering, but Cassian doesn't notice. Soon, Luthen comes to him and asks him to go to Gorman, as the local revolutionaries have learned about the strange activity of the Imperial troops. They are inexperienced, and Cassian must teach them everything he knows about underground activity. Cassian gets to Gorman and meets with the local resistance cell. He sees that they are too reckless and not ready for serious business, so he flies away. However, Luthen has no intention of just letting it go, so he sends Vel and Cinta there. With the help of data obtained from Karn, the locals plan to rob truckloads of weapons, which they will then use to resist the Empire. Vel trains the local rebels and forbids them to act outside the plan. During the robbery, one young man takes the weapons with him and accidentally kills Cinta. However, the operation goes well, just as Miro had hoped. Meanwhile, Wilman, one of those who escaped with Brass and Bix from Ferrix in the previous season, is also working for the Resistance. Luthen sends him to Saw Gerrera to help him with his equipment. Wilman is an excellent technician and has to teach one of Saw Gerrera's men his job. However, it turns out the local engineer was a spy, and the leader kills him. After that, Wilman replaces this engineer for some time, and because of that he becomes even more imbued with the ideas of the Resistance. At this time on Coruscant, Luthen's right-hand man named Clea learns that their bug installed in Davos' house may be detected. If that happens, their base will be exposed, and the entire network they spent so long setting up will be destroyed. They end up sneaking into Davos' gallery and removing the bug, but it was very dangerous, and they had to use the services of that valuable spy Young from Season 1. Meanwhile, Cassian returns to Coruscant and learns of Bix's addiction to substances. He realizes what this is all about, so they find the specialist who tortured her in Season 1. Bix gets revenge on him and turns the same device on him at full power. Then they blow up his office. Another year passes. The rebels finally form some kind of strict structure and establish a base on Yavin 4. That is where Bix and Cassian live. The man wants to stop working for Luthen and lay low somewhere with his lover. Soon Wilman arrives and tells Cassian that Miro has been discovered on Gorman. Let me remind you that the main characters are aware that Miro was responsible for the incident on their home planet. Wilman informs him that riots are about to break out on Gorman, and the Empire is going to blame it on the Resistance, making them look like terrorists. Cassian is hesitant at first, but goes there. Just then, an officer arrives on the planet whose job is to provoke the people into rebellion. He arranged everything so that the citizens of Gorman came to the public square. Eventually, a massacre breaks out, and people are shot in broad daylight. Cassian has discovered Miro and is about to kill her. But Karn notices the main character in the crowd and stops him. Cassian doesn't realize who he is, and Karn is killed by one of the rebels. Meanwhile, the humans are fleeing as the Empire has released the KX droids. The rebels manage to destroy one of them, and Cassian takes it with him. At the base, engineers reprogram the droid, and it now serves the Resistance. The Empire-controlled media is portraying the Gorman massacre as a terrorist insurgency. So now it's okay to send in the troops and relocate all the citizens. Most people believe this, but Senator Mon Mothma decides to oppose and condemn the Empire. This means she will most likely be imprisoned or killed. So Luthen sends Cassian to escort Mon Mothma out of the building. After a stunning speech to the Senate, she is met by the main character. They miraculously escape from the pursuit. They manage to get away and reach a safe house on Coruscant. Soon, Cassian returns to Yavin 4. He tells Bix that now they can finally escape. However, the woman goes missing in the morning. The main character discovers that she has run away. Bix realized that she was the only thing stopping Cassian, and if she wasn't there, he could give himself over to the ideas of the Resistance. After another year, Luthen receives an emergency signal from the spy Young. The man reveals that he has gained access to the secret data Miro has. Turns out everything that's been going on Gorman is a giant energy project. and the Empire's biggest secret is the construction of the Death Star. Jung says he's been exposed, and most likely Luthen too. The old man kills his loyal spy and meets with Clea. He tells her everything he has learned and asks her to pass this information on to the Resistance. Luthen then returns to the antique shop, where he starts destroying communication equipment. Suddenly, Miro comes and informs that she has finally found him. Luthen stabs himself with a dagger so that he cannot be interrogated. However, the medics who arrive manage to get him to the hospital. Clea realizes what she has to do. She sneaks into Luthen's room and disconnects him from life support. We are also shown the characters' pasts. Luthen used to be an officer of the Empire, but after he was ordered to wipe out an entire village of defenseless people, he couldn't take it anymore and deserted. There, Luthen rescued Clea, and together they decided to fight the Empire. Miro is taken into custody, as she is the reason Jung got the information about the Death Star and passed it on to the Resistance. Krennic is disappointed with her, and the woman is sent to the same prison as Cassian in Season 1. Meanwhile, Clea hides out in a safe house and sends a rescue signal, which Wilman receives and rushes to tell Cassian about it. Over the course of that year, the main character befriends a droid and another man named Melshi. When Cassian learns that a distress signal is coming from Coruscant, he decides to go there, but this violates a lot of rebel rules. By the way, Luthen's spy network and the Resistance soldiers didn't get along very well. Cassian and his friends get to Coruscant, but the Empire has already figured out where Clea is. The main characters barely manage to save the woman, and they return to Yavin. Cassian reports to his leadership that Luthen gave his life for her, but the Council at first does not trust this data, considering it a trap. Eventually, however, bits of information from various sources confirm that something large-scale is going on. Eventually, Cassian is sent to Kafrene to contact a certain informant to find out more. Meanwhile, we are shown Bix holding a baby in her arms. This is the end of the second season. A man named Galen is trying to hide his daughter Jyn because Krennic, the director of research on the Empire's unique weapons, has flown in to take him back. He tries to convince the engineer to return to work, but persuasion alone is not enough. Lyra, hoping to save her husband, comes out of hiding and soon dies. Jyn sees all this and runs to an underground bunker, where she is soon found by family friend Saw Gerrera. 15 years have passed. Jyn hides from everyone under a false identity and ends up in prison. She is accused of a number of crimes, including sabotage and forgery. Soon she is transported with the other prisoners to a labor camp, but on the way she is freed by rebels. At first, Jyn wants to escape from them, not knowing what they need her for. But the reprogrammed droid K2SO does not let her leave. It turns out that Cassian had learned from an Imperial pilot sent by Galen about a weapon capable of destroying any planet. Galen himself was developing it for the Empire, so the rebels kidnapped Jyn, hoping that she would help them get to her father. However, the Jyn herself has not seen Galen for many years and generally believed that he died. The Alliance promises the woman freedom if she helps them get close to her father. Jyn believes that Saw Gerrera may know where he is, so together with the rebels goes to the planet Jedha, where his base is located. Tarkin, one of the Empire's most powerful officers, learns that the rather talkative pilot Bodhi has escaped from Krennic. He fears that the Senate may find out about the project and hundreds of systems will join the rebellion. To avoid such consequences, Tarkin suggests testing the weapon on Jedha. Meanwhile, Jyn and Cassian witness an attack by Saw Gerrera's men on Imperial stormtroopers. In a firefight, the rebels gain the upper hand. Soon, Chirrut shows up and Saw Gerrera's men capture them and throw them into a local prison, where the main characters also find an escaped Imperial pilot. Jyn meets up with a longtime family friend and tries to figure out why he abandoned her years ago. It turns out that Saw Gerrera thought everyone was beginning to suspect who she really was. To save her, he made the decision to leave. Now that she's reappeared, Saw Gerrera thinks she was sent to kill him, but that's not the case. In fact, the Alliance believes that Galen gave him a message about the Empire's weapons and hope that when he sees Jyn, he will tell the rebels everything. Jyn herself is not going to join the rebellion and choose a side, because this whole war has brought her too much pain. Then Saw Gerrera shows her Galen's message, in which her father tells her the reasons why he continued to work for the Empire. He realized that even his death would not change anything, because Krennic would sooner or later be able to finish the project without him. So every day he created the illusion of his indispensability, while he prepared his revenge. In the end, he managed to create a vulnerability in the Death Star, hitting which will start a chain reaction, and the weapon will be destroyed. To understand where the defective reactor module is located, it is necessary to get the Death Star plans from the engineering archive on Scarif. The message is suddenly cut off by a shockwave, because Krennic has decided to test the weapon on Jedha. Cassian opens the cell and helps the others get out, then comes for Jyn, who asks Saw Gerrera to fly with them. But the man is tired of running and decides to stay behind. The rebels manage to leave the planet in the last seconds of its existence. Meanwhile, Tarkin is impressed by the destructive power of the new weapon, and declares to Krennic that he will present these achievements to the Emperor as his own. The director is furious, for this success belongs to him alone. However, Tarkin is convinced that after the information leak, Krennic cannot be trusted with such a high position. Despite the fact that Jedha is destroyed, and there, as they think, killed both the rebels and the Imperial pilot, Tarkin is convinced that the defector did not act alone, because he flew from the scientific complex where Galen works. Jyn tells Cassian and the others about what her father told her, but no one believes her words, because no one else has seen the message. Then Jyn offers to bring Galen to the Alliance to tell the rebels everything himself. So the main characters land on Eadu. Cassian goes on a scouting trip alone because he has a secret mission, to kill Galen. However, when he finds him, he cannot shoot him. Meanwhile, Krennic arrives as well. He intends to punish the engineer, so he kills his team. Meanwhile, Jyn secretly sneaks into the base in hopes of helping her father. The woman did not know that the rebels went to attack the base. Cassian asks to wait with the attack, because Jyn is there, but it is impossible to cancel an attack. Galen ends up dying in Jin's arms due to the explosion. Before he dies, he confirms his words that the Death Star can be destroyed by a vulnerability in the reactor. At this time, Darth Vader calls Krennic to him. He is not pleased with the director's actions and demands to see that Galen has not secretly corrupted the weapon. He then shows Krennic his place, reminding him that he can't jump above his head after all. Jyn realizes that Cassian was given orders to kill her father. She doesn't understand how he could do that to her, but there's no time to figure things out, so the main characters head to the Alliance Council. Jyn tries to convince the rebels to go to capture the Death Star blueprints, but few believe in her plan. Most are convinced that the plan is a trap, and it is foolish to risk their lives for the sake of a ghostly hope. As a result, the woman is denied a full-scale invasion on the planet. However, Cassian manages to gather a squad of volunteers willing to risk their lives for the hope of winning the war. The Jedi Temple Guardians Chirrut and Baze join the team. The team hijacks a trophy Imperial ship and sets off for Scarif. Once near the planet, Jyn learns of a protective barrier that can only be crossed at one ship gateway. But there is one difficulty in the form of a secret code. Bodhi hopes that the access codes of their shuttle are not yet outdated, and they will manage to slip through. Otherwise, they will die. Fortunately, the main characters manage to get past the defenses. The team lands near a tower, which is where the Empire's secret data is kept. While Cassian and Jyn, along with K2SO, infiltrate the protected area, the rest of the rebels distract the Imperial stormtroopers. Meanwhile, the Alliance learns of the battle on Scarif. Admiral Raddus goes to help, and soon the rest of the rebels join him. Krennic also becomes aware of their approach. He gives the order to close the planetary shield, but some still manage to fly through, after which they provide air support to the ground forces. The main characters manage to get into the archive, but it is not easy to choose the storage with the necessary information. K2SO reports that the shield is closed, which means that now they can not only not get out, but also cannot transmit the blueprints. Still, there is one way to get the information about the reactor's vulnerability to the rebels. Cassian contacts Bodhi on the radio and asks him to find a way to contact the fleet so they can shoot a hole so they can transmit the data. The pilot doesn't know how to do this, as there is active fighting on the ground, and he has no communication with the ships. Realizing that the future outcome of the war depends on it, Bodhi still finds a way. He sends his group to connect to the radio tower, and as soon as there is a signal, he will be able to contact the Alliance ships. However, it turns out to be more difficult than they thought. In the end, Chirrut takes everything upon himself and, sacrificing his own life, connects to the tower. Baze, having lost a close friend, goes to kill all enemies without distinction and is eventually killed. Bodhi manages to contact Admiral Radus and inform him of the need to create a breach in the defenses so they can forward the blueprints to them. Moments later, the pilot is killed in an explosion. K2SO helps Jyn and Cassian find the data on the Death Star, and Jyn guesses exactly what her father called the project, since that's what he called her as a child. Eventually, they find the project Stardust and try to get it, but at the same time, near the Archive, stormtroopers attack K2SO and kill him. Krennic appears, Cassian falls in the firefight, and Jyn manages to escape with the blueprints. Meanwhile, the rebels strike the destroyer with ion torpedoes and disable it, then use the corvette to push the Imperial ships, which crash into the airlock, thus opening it. Jyn sets up an antenna to transmit data, and Krennic tries to stop it. He is certain that no one has gotten a signal, which means it was all for nothing. The director tries to kill Jyn, but Cassian appears and shoots him. Jyn manages to complete the data transfer, and the Alliance fleet receives the blueprints. But at that moment, a Death Star appears in Scarif's orbit. Tarkin gives the order to destroy the base, hoping that this will avoid the data leak. As a result, Cassian, Jyn, Krennic, and all the rebels with the Empire army on Scarif die. Meanwhile, Darth Vader himself attacks the Alliance fleet to keep it from escaping, just in case the blueprints have been passed on. He kills the rebels, but one of them manages to pass on information about the Death Star. Before the crash, the diplomatic ship on which Princess Leia takes the blueprints away manages to launch. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the like button. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.